Greetings, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Being My Best Self, Mattering is the Agenda. I'm John Pickens, and I am the Harmony Program Manager, and I'm thrilled to be your host today for this exciting webinar brought to you by both Harmony and Inspire at Nash University. We host these webinars where thought leaders and educators share best teaching practices and tools to support social and emotional learning. These presentations are the opinions and content of our guest speakers and may not necessarily be a direct representation of Harmony or Inspire. For best viewing of this webinar, it is recommended that you shut down your other browsers. Throughout today's discussion, we hope to make this a conversation among our presenters and all of you. Please use the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel to submit questions, comments, or ponderings for our guests. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and you will receive a copy of the recording within the next week. If you are watching this webinar live, you will receive a copy of the certificate of completion from GoToWebinar within 24 hours. You can also download a copy of the slide deck today under the Handout tab on your GoToWebinar panel. I'd like to share now the objectives of this webinar with you. We hope today that you will develop strategies to help make people feel noticed, valued, and needed every single day. Hear from our Harmony SEL partner who exemplifies the practice of mattering in our lives and their work, and connect the lessons to our new Harmony 3rd edition unit, Being My Best Self, to continue to support the focus of students as unique individuals. So let's see who's here today. Let's take a poll to see who's joining us. You can click on your screen or answer in the question box. Who's in the audience today? Pre-K-12 educators, administrators, out-of-school time providers, nonprofit leaders, or others in the field. We'll give you a minute to click and see who we have today. It's always nice for our presenters to understand who's in the audience and to understand who they're talking to. So please feel free to click on the poll and we'll read out in just a minute what our numbers look like for today. I'm seeing a lot of pre-K-12 teachers in the audience. And let me take this time to say thank you. I don't think it gets said enough. I'm sure you hear it a lot, but as an educator, a lifelong educator myself, I want to say thank you to all of our educators for the work that you do. A few of you are on your summer break now, a few of you coming close, but I just want to say thank you and remind you how much you matter. Mm-hmm. So we have our numbers: 55% pre-K-12 grade teachers, 14% administrators, 9% are out-of-school youth providers, 5% nonprofit leaders, and 16% efforts in a different field. Again, we thank you all for joining us today. Now, I'm honored to introduce our guest. Our first guest is Angela Maiers. Angela founded the global movement Choose to Matter in 2014 with a singular mission: to help individuals recognize their value and potential contribution to change, both in their lives and in the world. The nonprofit organization grew out of the impassioned response to a TED Talk where she gave on the power of two simple words that went viral: you matter. As an educator for 30 years, Angela has shared her message of mattering not only with students and teachers, but with businesses and organizations large and small. Angela is on a mission to disrupt the status quo and to empower every individual to change their world, if not the world around them, obviously for the better. Welcome, Angela. Love having you here.
Oh my gosh, I could not be more honored and excited to be here. I want to reiterate, John, my deep thanks for all of not only the educators, but the school leaders, the nonprofits, everybody who's here. The fact that this has been quite a school year, quite a few school years, and you're just starting your summer break, and here's where you are. I mean, that says everything, and I do not underestimate that or take that for granted. So I'm on that note, on what the last 2 years have been, even though we are looking back, but also looking forward, I just want to honor and validate that this has been a time like no other. when the pandemic was at its like height, if you will. I think this was year 2. I worked with, oh, do you want to welcome Andrea? Oh my gosh, Andrea, I'm so sorry. I thought it was, oh, please, 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 I'm going to be quiet. Andrea, welcome. It is an honor for you to be here and to meet you as well. So sorry, John. I'm just so excited. I can't help it.
We're all excited to hear all of what you have to say as well, Angela.
Yeah, I was just going to say that gives the audience an example of your passion and what they're in store for in just a few minutes. But that being said, we're also honored to have Andrea Kahn with us today. Andrea is from Special Olympics, and she's the Vice President, Special Olympics Unified Champion School, and she has been with Special Olympics for upwards of 30 years. In her current role, which she has held since 2008, she's overseen the growth of Unified Champion Schools from its inception to its current global status. Offered in nearly 100,000 schools around the world and 8,000 schools here in the US, promoting social inclusion through the innovative implementation of unified sports, inclusive youth leadership, and other school-wide education and awareness activities. Welcome. Very glad to have you here as well.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you, Angela, too. I'm really excited to be here as well, mostly because I think I'm going to be able to share, I hope, a part of Special Olympics that a lot of the audience might not be aware of. And maybe by the end of the presentation, everyone will understand why the work that we're doing with Unified Champion Schools also is so integral to supporting this idea of everyone matters. And I believe that sometimes the population that we serve is not included when we think of that diversity, but they our students with intellectual disabilities are just as much a part of our schools and our communities as everyone else, and have such an important leadership role to play. So I'm excited to share about that. And Angela, I'm really excited to learn from you. And I'm really pleased to be with this group because we are at the very beginning of our relationship with National University. And we have so many really interesting and fun and valuable projects in the works that I think this audience will see this as the beginning of a long partnership ahead of us.
Excellent. We're thrilled to death to have both of you here. And I have to laugh because the next line in my script is supposed to say, before we get started with our amazing guest speakers, but I kind of feel we've already gotten started with our amazing speakers. But before we get into their individual presentations, I'd like to ask both of you ladies a question using one of our quick connection cards, which is a strategy we use to build community through our program across the nation and around the world. And so today we're focusing on being our best selves and helping others be their best selves. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask the two of you, what has made you proud?
Andrea, I'll let you go since I interrupted you before, but yes, go ahead.
I'll just be really quick and say that the thing that makes me proud about our work is that Special Olympics is really something that most people are familiar with. It's very feel good. People have a good idea of what we do and are very supportive of the work that we do. There's a lot of storytelling and a lot of really positive energy that comes out of Special Olympics. We're so fortunate about that. The thing that makes me proud is that we also have a really strong underpinning of evaluation and research, especially over the last 20 years, that supports the impact of our work on the individuals that we serve, the individuals that participate, and also the communities that we are in. So I'm very proud of that fact.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm already bursting with pride. I'm like beyond excited to be here. And I look at the numbers and I mean, we are so close to just being out of school, and where are teachers and where are leaders and where is our education community learning more ways to know how do we meet all the needs of all students. And like I look at that number and it makes me burst with pride that not only you showed up in your best self today, but that this topic matters to you. That makes me burst with pride.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies. I love both of those responses. And obviously, I've been an educator 30 years, and I said this in one of our practice sessions to you, Andrea, that I really appreciate you guys shining a light on sometimes our forgotten population of students. And so, to the point of what we're talking about today, everyone matters. We all matter. And so, with that in mind, and with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic back to Angela. So, Angela,
Excellent.
we're turning our cameras off. We're turning our mics off. Please take it
I'll be
away.
back later.
See you in just a bit, Andrea. So I want to just honor not only why you matter, but how much you matter. I worked with Edutopia, and we had teachers in the midst of the pandemic just pick up the phone and just share how they were feeling. And I know that many of their thoughts, even though this was a year ago, that many of their thoughts will resonate with you. But this is what, to me, what it not only looks like, but what it sounds like when we show up to be our best selves, and all that that takes to do what seems like such a simple thing: wake up and be us. So here's to the year or two going on 3 that we've had. Go ahead.
Honestly, the first thing I want to do is just burst into tears.
My tank is empty, and I need to binge all the Girl Scout cookies and only wear sweatpants for at least 3 months straight.
I've been a teacher for 27 years, and this is the first time I have just hated what I do. It has nothing to do with the kids.
We were heroes 1 minute and then vilified. People wanted to blame us for having schools closed.
I wanted to stand outside the school with a megaphone and just shout, "I am just a lady. I have no idea what is going on, but I am here, and I'm really trying my best."
There are things that I think we'll be able to take away from this, but for the most part, it's like,
I have taught hybrid, then remote, then back to in-person, then we got quarantined, and then I have to do state testing. Somebody somewhere is not listening to educators.
So I had my kids in the classroom, not really socially distanced. Then I had my kids on Zoom, and then I had kids I never was able to find. They were just missing. Like, take attendance, like I just gave up.
I care about my kids. I love them. But I feel like I'm choosing between my sanity and everything admin requires of me.
I think one of the hardest things, it's making the middle schoolers wear their masks so we can stay at school. It's like, would you just put the damn mask on and leave it on your face, please?
It's been a struggle, but I also have really valued this year as a time to question a lot of the things that we believe about public education.
This is our chance to really shake up education, to look at what really matters, to look at how do we spend our 53 minutes in class each day.
I teach high school ELL students, to see them struggling at first, but overcoming all their challenges in a virtual environment.
I'm so grateful that I looked outside as a way to safely bring my students back to school. Some days, our read-alouds take place under a canopy of tall pine trees.
I can't do this without getting broken up. This year has been the most challenging, but the most rewarding. And I'm so proud of all of us, teachers, administrators, students. We couldn't have done it without each other.
America's educators are stronger and braver than you think. If we can make it through this year, we can make it through anything.
It was really hard to take hours and hours of teacher stories and get it down to just a few minutes. But as I've been hearing them and holding these stories close to my heart, they are stories of mattering, and stories, I think the pandemic and everything that it unveiled to us individually and to the world how much teachers matter and how much they matter to their students, no matter what context, no matter what was going on. When we showed up for our kids, we understood and they understood how much that changed everything. Didn't just change our community, it changed the world. And I'm praying that the world is forever grateful that you did show up and tried to be your best self. So my goal today is not only to remind you of how extraordinary you are, how resilient you are, how flexible, how amazing that you have been, not just in the last 2 years, but whenever you started. But my goal is to sustain that truth of how much we matter. This isn't a message for the beginning of the year. I'm not telling you you matter to make you feel better about yourself or to motivate or inspire you. I'm reminding you that this is our responsibility, our mattering, that we show up to the world differently when we know that we matter and we are essential to another human being. This isn't just a whim or an ideology. This is straightforward biology, and I'd like to demonstrate that. So if you can indulge me, and I'm not there to see you, but if you could indulge me and just close your eyes for a moment while I speak these words to you and hopefully through you. So I'll give you a second to just get comfortable and close your eyes and just let these words come through you. I see you. I hear you. You are indispensable to me. I could not and would not have wanted to do that without you. My world is a better place because you are here. You matter to me. As you let words like that resonate, I just want you to use the question box and just jot down, as you were hearing words like that and you are being reminded explicitly how significant you are, how important you are, how essential you are, how did that make you feel? And I'll just give you a moment to write 1 or 2 feelings, anything, in the chat box. And John or Andrea, when a few come in, can you just share with the group how people are feeling, since I can't see their beautiful
Yes. We have some great responses coming in.
Yes.
Valued during the good times. It made me feel valued not only as a school counselor, but as a human being. Appreciated, supported. I felt like I mattered. Valid, teary-eyed, emotional, grateful. Disbelief. I felt cared for and supported. Over emotional, appreciated and supported. That made me feel awesome and loved.
Oh my gosh. So I wish I could tell you I was a magician, but I am not. I am a scientist. So before I met you, before you commented, I had predicted how this would make you feel. Exactly, may not be the exact words, but I feel loved. I feel grateful. I feel valued. I feel invaluable. I feel joyful. All of these things are your body and your brain's natural response to getting an essential need met. We don't just simply want to matter, we need to matter. And in the same way your body needs food, water, shelter, and air, and responds to it when that essential need is fulfilled, your body needs to know, your brain, your body, your soul needs to know that you are seen, that you are heard, that you are valued, and that you are essential. This is not a nicety. Again, I am not trying to be nice to make you feel this way. It is a necessity. When human beings, any age, any demographic, when human beings show up to the world feeling one or more of these things, not only do they have more energy, they are more productive, they are more resilient, they are more patient, they are filled with a deeper sense of confidence and courage. They have an extended sense of not only what they are capable of, but they see the world differently. It is a reinforcement to our humanity when we feel like this. and it cost nothing. And it took seconds to make another human being feel this way, because we believe, or we've been taught to believe, that mattering is a nicety, that it is not a necessity. So I'm going to make the case today to position what I'm saying in the same way we position the urgency of other essential needs. We would not imagine any experience that we go through as human beings, from showing up to work, to learning, to playing sports, to just operating day to day. We recognize that if the human does not have enough food, does not have the proper nutrition or hydration, hasn't gotten sleep, all the things that affect our physical well-being, we're going to be a different person. We are going to be a different person in the world and to the world if we are feeling at any level unseen, unheard, unvalued, underappreciated, marginalized, all of those things. So how do we do that? Here has been my big audacious goal for, I don't know, as long as I can remember. I'm starting my 35th year in education, and it has always been my goal that every person, every day, experience their humanity, feel one or more of these things. And we are put on this earth, whether it's in a classroom or outside a classroom, to make each other better, to leave each other better off than we found them. And if we understand the science, we can absolutely do that. So about 15 years ago, I created this framework of what it looks like to sustain a culture of mattering. And how do we do that more than at the beginning of the year or the end of the year or on Secretary's Day or on Teacher Appreciation Day? Because this isn't about appreciating each other. This is about fulfilling our human conditions for one another. So this framework is built on very specific principles of moments and micro moments in the human experience. Scientists call this primacy and recency. So the framework looks like this: 2, 5, 2. So I'm going to talk about the twos at first, because that's the primacy and recency part. And what we've learned studying human behavior for decades is that a human processes their day, their event, their experience by the totality of that experience. Meaning that even if we went to Disney World, an amazing experience, we would not remember details of that. We simply remember and record and imprint how we feel after the totality of that experience, not necessarily the details of that experience. And in that experience, you can affect the outcome, impact the outcome, if in the experience you focus on peak moments, primacy and recency, which means those moments are the very first seconds that you interact with a human and the very last seconds. And that's where the 2 comes. So the science is really advanced. And I used to say this is the first 20 seconds and the last 20 seconds. But like Malcolm Gladwell said, a blink of an eye tells your brain unconsciously that this is going to be an experience with another human that you're going to value and appreciate. So I'm giving you a 2-second to a 20-second window. So I want you to think about, in any experience, the first 2 to 20 seconds and the last 2 to 20 seconds when you greet people and when you meet them are the most fundamentally important. They are what Dan and Chip Heath call peak moments. So if we can be deliberate, be specific, be intentional about how we show up for each other in those moments, it is not only mood changing, context changing, it is sometimes life changing. So let's break that down a little bit deeper. So the first 2 seconds. Remember, human beings need to feel seen, they need to feel heard, they need to feel acknowledged, they need to feel appreciated. And notice I'm using the word need, not like to feel this way. They need to feel this way. And we have a chance to do that with anyone we interact with. It's a matter of being fully, deliberately present. So everyone I meet feels like I am not distracted by the world and I'm attracted to their presence. This could be your best friend, this could be your spouse, this could be a student, or this could be a stranger that you meet on the street. We have lost the art and the need to give each other eye contact, to greet each other, to use one another's name, to smile for Pete's sakes, especially in the 2 years that we have been masked up. Seeing another human being smile impacts you physiologically. I'm going to give you an example. I was at the airport, which is a very stressful place to be for most people. And the man in front of me last week was trying to feel heard by his flight was canceled, a whole bunch of stuff had happened, which the teller or the person behind the employee of the airline could not prevent. So it's not his fault. But what is in his control is how the other person felt and was able to handle it. So 5 minutes went on, and the man behind the counter kept typing on his computer, never once looked up, never once acknowledged the other man as a human being. The man continued to escalate and get more frustrated. And to finally, I put my hand on the man's shoulder and I said, "Tell me your name." Immediately, he disarmed. "Tell me what's happening." So I said to the person behind the counter, "What is your name?" And I said, I don't remember what his name was, Scott. "I want you to know that Dan is just simply, I see that you're both frustrated, that Dan is simply trying to get that." When the two men looked at each other, gave each other eye contact, recognized one another as human beings, the entire interaction changed. I can tell you 1,000 stories of that happening over and over. So we have to be hyper conscious when we interact with anybody, whether it's our students, whether it's somebody in the hallway. It is so easy to put our heads down and to be distracted and be thinking about a million things. I'm not asking you to be fully present 24 hours a day. I am asking you, in the primacy of an event, I want you to make sure for at least a few seconds that you are fully present. The other two, remember 252, the other two, the second peak moment is how you leave a human being, how you leave a human being. When we have human beings come to us in our experience with them, we absolutely cannot control what happens before they enter our world. And I'm not asking you to carry the weight of your students, the weight of another human being on your shoulders, but you absolutely can control how that person leaves you. And it is your mission, it should be our goal for any human being that we interact with to leave them better off than we found them. And doing that is a reminder that you were grateful for the interaction, that you acknowledged the interaction that you had, and that it was important in your life. When I was in the classroom, one of the things that we did at the end of the day, instead of focusing on the content of the day, because I wanted the initial primacy and recency to make sure that I greeted every single one of my students before we started. I checked in with them as human beings. I'm going to check out with them as human beings. So at the end of the day, we formed a quick circle and we shared with each other. And if we didn't have time, I just had them share with the neighbor what I called wow moments. Wow moments are worthy of the world. They are something that somebody did that made you smile, that made you stand up, that made you in some way feel that way. And when we shared our wow moments, it again changed everything. If math class didn't go right, if something happened during the day, if technology failed, all of a sudden, the totality of the experience is that you leave, no matter what happened in the middle, feeling like this every single day, especially on the bad days. During the pandemic, when I didn't have students in front of me, I started creating a jar of my own daily wow moments. And I will tell you that not only did the act of looking back on your day and remembering how you're choosing to feel no matter what, marking it, jotting it down, but I cannot tell you how many down days during the pandemic that I opened this jar and I remembered how lucky, how blessed I am to be alive in this world in the presence of amazing human beings, not just the ones I dealt with, but the man at the airport, the woman at the grocery store, the neighbor that came out. And there's a million moments in the day, and we can absolutely find one that makes us feel valued and hopeful and optimistic. It is not a natural state. Our brains are wired to pay attention to danger and to resonate and ruminate on negative. This is a practice. This framework is a practice. 2, 5, 2. So if you only take away primacy and recency, you're really looking at about 2 to 20 seconds in your whole day that you ultra focus on how you greet people and how you leave people. And it is life changing when it is sustained. It is life changing the first time it happens. The 5 is just a bonus. So I'm going to tell you that really quick because I know that Andrea has so many amazing things to share. I want to say that the 5 was some scientific discovery, but it wasn't. It was me being a first year teacher with 28 5-year-olds and completely exhausted. And they wanted to matter every single day, every single minute. And they're the only group of human beings that demand that all their essential needs. If they're hungry, they'll tell you. If they need to go to the bathroom, they'll tell you. It doesn't matter if it's math class or science class. When an essential need comes up, they let you know. If you aren't paying attention to them, if you didn't notice something amazing and genius that they did, they're going to call you on it. So I wanted to honor that. I wanted to honor those conditions that make us human. But I couldn't keep up. So I came one day and I said, you guys, I'm super exhausted. You guys are doing amazing things and I'm noticing and I don't want to miss it. So I made a chart and I literally took a chart and I divided it by 5 days of the week. And I'm like, you 5 are Monday. You will be awesome on Monday. And I promise you that not only I will notice it, I will note it. I'm going to put it in this beautiful journal and I will note down what it is that I was like, privileged enough to be in the presence of. On Tuesday, you 5, you can be awesome, and I'm gonna notice you. And I literally took 5 minutes out of my school day, no matter what they were doing. It could be walking to the lunchroom, it could be recess, it could be nap time, it could be math time. All I was there to do was witness the genius in my presence, and then by writing it down, I was giving them a front row seat to their own brilliance. And I did this mostly just because I literally couldn't keep track and was frustrated with all the interruptions that kids had. And I would say in about 2 weeks, they really trusted that I was honoring them as human beings, not what they were doing or how they were doing it, but who they are. And I was fulfilling this universal question every human being asks. Only 5-year-olds are brave enough to say it out loud, but every human being has an invisible urge and craving to ask another human being, do I matter to you? And by this practice, I am saying, yes, you do, and here's how. So I started writing down. And then what happened is if something on Wednesday happened that was amazing with another student, they would say, Miss Maiers, I know Tyler is not until Friday and it's Wednesday, but we can't miss what he did. And it was like the most just extraordinary thing to see. And so they said, well, could we borrow your noticing notebook and then we'll write down what Tyler did. So then when you see him on Thursday, you will know. And this is my first, this is going to make me so emotional. This is my first ever noticing notebook. 34 years, I have kept a noticing notebook for every aspect of my life. Every day, I find 5 people in my life, and I explicitly tell them what I noticed, what I valued, and why they matter. And I'm getting this out because this is like a treasure. It's falling apart. And what is so interesting is my kids wrote in there their phone numbers. They're like, so we don't want you to miss anything. So if you see something on the weekend, not only their phone numbers, their addresses, this is my mom's phone number, this is my mom's email, this is my mom's address. It became such a part of the culture to notice and know the human being in our presence. And I think that each and every one of us can take something from that charge, that we are put on this earth to be there for one another. And it has become such an isolated society that the essence of mattering, the deepest driver of human behavior, is knowing that we are essential to another person. And you will not know that if you don't even recognize the person next to you, wherever next to you is a human being. And everyone deserves that kind of dignity. So 2, 5, 2. I want you to give it a try. And I think that is my time. So yes, perfect reflection. Yes. What is one thing that makes you feel like this?
Very powerful, Angela. Thank you for sharing that. Again, as I said to the audience earlier, they would definitely see your compassion around this topic. And I would say that your compassion for people, your compassion to show us all that we all matter. And we've all had that experience in the airport. I've had it 5 times in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So thank you for pointing those things out. Now to our audience, it's your turn to go into the question box, answer these questions. What is one way you can make sure you feel valued? And as our audience is addressing that, I have a question for you, Angela. If you're okay, we can continue our conversation. So let me ask you this. What inspires you to keep going when, as you said, as we heard from listening to the teachers, the challenges are so great?
I will always see the faces of my 5-year-old students. They just, what they taught me will stay with me forever. They say everything you learned in kindergarten. Everything I learned teaching kindergarten. And when I thought about why the majority of the time, and these were kids that would have a label on them, would have some sort of acronym, would have some sort of plan in a very, every challenge that you could think of. Every day they ran to my classroom, and this was the feeling. They left with that feeling. And as a researcher, it stunned me about why. And I really started noticing as I taught every grade from preschool to graduate school. I spent the first 5 years in kindergarten, and then I moved to first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up. And I started noticing not only did kids come to school not showing up this way, they left school feeling almost the opposite. You could see in their eyes, their souls leaving. And I noticed it in my own kids. I do this, picture every year of my kids sitting on the steps, and I see their kindergarten picture and then their high school senior year picture, and I put those two together, and I'm like, how did this happen? Where did the joy go? Where did the confidence go? Where did the security go? And it all goes back to 5-year-olds demanded that you recognize that they matter. And it wasn't an irritation or an interruption. It was a reminder to reset what matters most. We do not need to reform education. We've been saying we're going to reform education since the day I started 34 years ago. We need to rehumanize education. And this framework gives us a hard reset on what matters most to human beings. That's what motivates.
Very powerful. Amanda, now I'm going to lean into you. Yes. Can you share out some of the comments from the audience, please?
Yes, we're having amazing responses. I would make sure I say hello to people and ask how they are. Someone commented, never thought to keep a notebook, especially with my patients that I cared for. Yes. I try hard to make them feel that they are important to me and the staff. Getting my morning hugs from both my own children and my students make me feel valued. Believing in myself. Chills resonated with me too. Yes, rehumanize. So great ideas from the audience.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing, and thank you to our audience. And now, without further ado, we're so fortunate to also hear about the amazing work from our partners at Special Olympics. And so I'm going to pass the mic back to Andrea so she can share the tremendous impact that they are having.
Thank you, John, and thanks, Angela. That was very inspiring and really resonates with our work, because it really does matter when you ensure that everybody knows that they matter as well. And I 100% agree and see every day exactly what you're talking about. You can go to the next slide. I want to share just a little bit of, take us back to the basics of Special Olympics. Our mission is very well known. We are a sports organization that offers training and competition in all kinds of sports across the board for children and adults, all ages, with intellectual disabilities. But it's really the second part of our mission that people often forget about, or they're not as aware of, that is the most important, because we use sport and leadership as a change mechanism for individuals and entire communities to be able to share their joy, share their friendships, share their skills and their value and why and how they matter with each other, with the community at large. And our sports program is about ensuring that that second part, that impact happens. We use sport as a platform, but we are actually not so much a sports organization as much as a social change movement. And we can go to the next slide. This is just, it's a little bit traumatizing, this slide, because this is a REACH report from 2020, which shows a lot of down arrows because it was a devastating year for us with COVID impact on our activities. So don't look at the arrows so much as I wanted to show you, and by the way, we are seeing a huge resurgence and we are gaining all of our participants back already in last year, at the end of the year, and this year we've seen so much regrowth, and we learned so much during that time, as we all have, about how important it is to stay connected. Nonetheless, what I wanted to show you here is that we do obviously conduct sports. We do lots of training, lots of competitions. In fact, our former chairman used to say, the sun never sets on Special Olympics. We have unified sports, which is where people with and without intellectual disabilities play together on the same teams. All of those sport activities continue, but we are also the largest collector of data, health data, for people with intellectual disabilities in the world. Even more data that we collect on the disparities that there are for health situations for people with intellectual disabilities, more than WHO and other global organizations, because we conduct screenings at all of our events. And we also have an enormous leadership focus where we train our athlete leaders and also all of our family members, our youth leaders, etc., in how to advocate for themselves and for the mission of social inclusion. We're in schools, which is what I'm going to tell you about, around the world, promoting social inclusion, positive school climate, the development of friendships, and social emotional skills. So that is a really enormous part of what we do now. And so all of those sports activities are important, but they really are there in order for us to do all of these other things and make sure that the people who we serve and the people that we are here for are finding ways in which to matter in their communities. So if you go to the next slide, I can show you how that emanates into our vision. Basically, we believe that sport opens hearts and minds towards people with intellectual disabilities, and our goal is to create inclusive communities, to create an inclusive world. So that is how we define our why. That is the why. Let me tell you about Unified Champion Schools, which is part of that why. The next slide will explain a little bit of that. This is not something that's new, although our school programming started 15 years ago in this robust way that we are doing education now. Since the very beginning of Special Olympics, when Eunice Kennedy Shriver started the camps in her backyard, it was about young people. She would bring in these young adults from the institutions around the Washington, D.C. area to play in her backyard, to swim, to play games, to climb trees, to ride horses. And the counselors or the other students that she brought in, the volunteers, were students from schools in the local area. And so she was looking at how young people would interact and together. And that was one of the premises, because as many of you I'm sure know, Eunice Shriver was basing her ideas for this work on the relationship that she had with her sister. She knew from her experience with her sister that her sister could run, jump, play, have fun, compete with all of those competitive boys in the family along with her. And there was no reason for her not to be excluded, but there were no programs that allowed for that. So this idea of inclusion and unifying all students together has been part of our story from the very beginning. 15 years ago, we turned this into an actual strategy. So if you go to the next slide, I can explain exactly what Unified Champions School does. So we've taken all of these things that we've learned from our experience with people with intellectual disabilities every day that show us how they can be leaders, how they want to be leaders, how they have so much to share and so much profound positivity. I mean, if you want to find out if you matter, hang out with a person with intellectual disability for the day. I'm sure all of you teachers on this webinar understand that profoundly. The Unified Champion Schools model is actually a very deliberate, intentional framework that promotes social inclusion through three interconnected components. Our unified sports, and that is that inclusive sports that I mentioned, where people with all abilities are on the same teams. But it's not just a mosh pit. It's very, very intentional about the way in which we conduct unified sports. And it's we have appropriate activities at all grade levels, starting at pre-K, going all the way through college. So we have unified physical education classes, we have early childhood development and motor skill development that's unified, and we have recreation, we have interscholastic unified sports. So it goes the whole gamut from very developmental, recreational, and also very competitive. Our inclusive youth leadership is also really important. Those clubs, those inclusive clubs. Now you learn about how to get along with someone. You learn that somebody has a similar ability to you when you're playing on a team together. When you work on a project together in a club, when you're doing something to either support or boost the school sports team, or you're planning a campaign to promote inclusion in your school, or you're sitting down and coming up with projects that can enhance the inclusivity of your school, you learn about how to work together. So that is a really important component. And then the whole school engagement, to me, is really one of the most critical components in this mixture of strategy, is that these activities are not just for the 20 kids that are in the club or the 15 kids that are on the team. It's everyone in the school participates in some of these activities. It is promoted school-wide, so these activities and these students are made to be are part of the fabric of the school. So you don't have an assembly that the special education classes are also not part of. You don't have an after-school choir program that doesn't include all of your students. You don't have activities that are exclusive to some, or maybe they are open to everybody, but they are not necessarily set up so that all people of all abilities feel invited. And one of the things that we found is by doing these unified activities in the schools, so many other unified and inclusive activities that schools don't have any reason not to do, but they become inspired to do more when they see how easy and how much positive impact it has on the school. And I want to share a little bit more about this. In the next slide, we can see about some of that impact. This started in the United States, and we have the focus of our research and evaluation has been in the United States, but in the past few years, we have actually been able to expand this into every region of the world. 73 countries are at least have one Unified Champion school. We have 100,000 schools that are offering at least some of the 3 component activities and building towards that full engagement. Obviously, the model in countries where it's not an inclusive school model, where schools are separate, or maybe there are not even any schools for people with special needs. It looks a little bit different, but it's still, we have found a way to create the model in all of these different contexts. And so we have 2,000 of those Unified Champion schools around the world, and 100,000 that are on the path emerging in that direction. One example that I wanted to point out, when we have the commitment from somewhere to bring this kind of activity to their schools, you can see huge change happen overnight. We had and it also shows the power of the competition in the sports. We had our World Games in the United Arab Emirates a couple of years ago, and they decided, as part of the legacy of those World Games, that they were going to commit to have Unified Champion Schools programming in every single one of their government schools in the entire country, which they did. They followed on their commitment, and the entire school system now in UAE has become inclusive because of the influence that we were able to have with them, because of their whole community and society's view of what inclusion looked like by having the games in their country. And we can see this happening around the world. It's exciting when you can see that kind of an impact. Impact in the United States is also still quite profound, I must say. We have done a lot of research, some of which I have outlined in the next slide, that shows that when you can, I'm sorry, I forgot about this slide. We can just go through this quickly. I think everybody on this call knows that these are the challenges that we all face in school, that all students are facing: disengagement, bullying, the fact that many students are not included in all of the activities in the school, and obviously health problems, obesity, but also mental health, suicide, all of these other things that are such huge problems for our students. And the thing that's most disheartening is all of these things affect everybody, and students with intellectual disabilities, for the most part, are 3 times or more likely to be affected by these challenges. The strategy that we have put together tries to address all of those things with the different elements that we include in our activities and in our different curricula. So obviously we're very adamant about making sure that we don't just have some great stories to tell, which I could tell you a lot of, but I'm going to give you a lot of links so that you can look at our videos and see some of the powerful testimonials. But I wanted to share with you some of the really strong impact that we're seeing. And that is that almost all of the schools that we're in, the teachers see an improvement in school climate. We are showing a reduction in bullying, teasing, the use of pejorative language. We've almost really had such an impact on the participation of students with intellectual disabilities overall in after school and school activities. We can also see over time, we've done a lot of research to see the development and the improvement of social emotional skills in students who are involved in Unified Champion Schools activities. That is something that has very profound, and it's leading us to some new research about exactly what it is about the interaction between people with and without intellectual disabilities that promotes and creates that inclusive mindset. One of the things that we were not set out to accomplish, that wasn't our purpose, but it's been an absolutely fantastic benefit, is that we are seeing academic improvements in the students in the schools that are in conducting Unified Champion Schools programming, increase in graduation rates for students with intellectual disabilities, and an increase not quite as high, but also an increase for students who don't have an intellectual disability. This is compared to schools that are not Unified Champion schools. It's a very statistically significant difference. We also are seeing some differences in the standardized test scores for schools that are offering Unified Champion Schools programming. And then lastly, I just want to point out that this data is mostly captured in the United States, but we also have tons of data that we've captured around the world. And you can look at the next slide. That is for, that shows parents are seeing such huge changes in their students after they've been involved in unified sports. Teammates are really having a greater understanding of folks who are traditionally seen as being different. Like I said, those friendships are really important. And students who are, disengaged, this really helps that disengagement challenge. They are feeling like they can change their school for the better. They feel like they have agency to improve their environment and to make that change. That's really important for students, as we all know. And like I mentioned, we're working on this future concept, putting a framework together around the idea of an inclusive mindset. We're really excited about how that's going to become something that we can all use. We want to be able to create the curriculum training and all the activities that would support promotion of an inclusive mindset. And that can have an effect across the board. It's not just around people with intellectual or developmental disabilities, but an inclusive mindset can be something that we can all use in all contexts of our life. So that's enough. I think we're going to run out of time here in a minute. You will get these slides, so you will have the links to all of these different resources. And our generationunified.org website has a plethora of lessons, lesson plans, videos, activities that you can conduct in your classrooms to promote this idea of an inclusive mindset, of understanding difference, of being friends, of understanding why everyone matters, and that is what we're all about. So thank you for the time, and I don't know, we didn't leave very much time for questions, did we, John?
Well, we'll figure out how to make that up. And I just want to say thank you for that amazing information. Thank you for the stories, and thank you for showing us the numbers. I used to say, as an educated administrator, to students and to my teachers, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So it's nice to see that. And this is a good connection to our 3rd edition, Unit 1, which is coming out, which is obviously entitled Being My Best Self. And the goal of that is to help students be their best selves. And we've talked about that quite a bit. I invite you, as always, I invite everyone to go to our portal to visit the 3rd edition. Unit 1 is coming out at the end of this month. You'll be able to see all the new information that's there. You'll be able to see our new characters that are coming out. This is, really quickly, this is our anchor chart, and this talks about what our students, their thoughts, their emotions, their actions. These are the things that are important, and us helping students be their best self, and as we've talked about, being our best selves. Hopefully if you leave with anything today, a lot of great information, but leave with the fact that you matter. That is really important. You matter. Be your best self. See yourself, understand yourself. One of the things that I was going to say, you see our characters here. We talk a lot about being your best self. We tell kids to be their best selves, but one way to help with that is through representation. So what you'll see in our new 3rd edition, our updated, refreshed 3rd edition, you'll see a variety of different characters, because when kids see themselves in the stories that they read, it shows them how much they matter. And as educators, as out of school time folks, as administrators, just as people in general, it's our job to help kids realize they matter and to be their surrogate self-confidence until we can get them to believe in themselves. And hopefully we did a lot of that today. Just a couple quick things that I want to say, and then I'll give my colleagues here just a quick minute to come back and share what they want to share, their final thoughts. When the webinar closes, we definitely want you to take our survey, so you'll get all that information. But really quickly, I'll give the floor. I'll pass the mic back to you two ladies for your closing thoughts.
Andrea, that was so inspiring. I just I wish I could see all your faces. I wish I could jump through the screen. The data is there. It is absolutely there. The challenge is that when something is so common sense, it is very easy for it not to become commonplace and common practice. So we assume, because none of the data that Andrea shared stuns me. It matches with my 20 years of data. And so we just have to remember and find ways to remember, which is just what this little poster is, that we can't assume anything. We can't assume that the people that we are leading and serving feel this way, because every day, every human deserves it. So thank you so much, and you matter. And Andrea, I'm so thrilled. I just connected with you online.
I know, I saw already. I think I'm already following you now too. I just want to echo what Angela said, and I'm really thrilled to have a chance to be a part of all of this. The thing that I want to do next is I want to introduce you to some of our really stunning youth leaders and have them share with you why this matters to them and why they're so passionate about seeing it in schools across the country and around the world. We have our USA Games in Orlando next week, and John is actually coming down there to see what's there. We will have over 100 youth leaders there talking about this work with the volunteers, with the spectators, and with the people who are at these games, not as athletes, but as advocates for social inclusion through sports. And I think that they matter enormously, and they are already proving what you have said in your presentation, Angela, that everyone matters. And when you know you matter, you can make a huge difference in the world.
100%. Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you to my behind the scenes team. And
yes.
Amanda, thank you to the audience for being here with us today and for staying a little extra. Again, please do the survey. We definitely appreciate your feedback. We definitely read it. It definitely helps us move forward. And again, in closing, I hope that each of you are better for having spent this time with us. I know that we are better for sharing this hour with you. Thank you and have a great day, everybody.
Bye.